Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. A reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, text number 16 and 17. Mamamstihi etad ascharyam sarvascharyamayechute yeidam mayaya devaya srujyati avihanti aja. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O Brahmanas, do not think this to be especially wonderful in the activities of the mysterious and infallible personality of Godhead. By his own transcendental energy, he creates, maintains, and annihilates all material things, although he himself is unborn. Purport. The activities of the Lord are always inconceivable to the tiny brain of the living entities. Nothing is impossible for the Supreme Lord, but all his actions are wonderful for us. And thus, he is always beyond the range of our inconceivable limits. The Lord is the all-powerful, all-perfect personality Godhead. The Lord is cent% perfect, whereas others, namely Narayana, Brahma, Shiva, demigods, and all the other living beings, possess only different percentage of such perfection. No one is equal to or greater than him. He is unrivaled. Verse number 17. Brahma Tejo Vinurmukter Atmajai Saha Krishnaya Prayana Bhimuktam Krishnam Idam Aham Pritachati. Translation. Thus, saved from the radiation of the Brahmastra, Kunti, the chaste devotee of the Lord, and her 5 sons, and Draupadi addressed Lord Krishna as he started for home. Kunti is described herein as Sati, or chaste, due to her unalloyed devotion to Lord Sri Krishna. Her mind will now be expressed in the following prayers of Lord Krishna. A chaste devotee of the Lord does not look to others, namely any other living entity, any other living being or demigod, even for deliverance from danger. That was all along the characteristic of the whole family of the Pandavas. They knew nothing except Krishna, and therefore the Lord, who was also always ready to help them in all respects and in all circumstances. That is the transcendental nature of the Lord. He reciprocates the dependence of the devotee. One should not, therefore, look for help from imperfect beings or demigods, but one should look for all help from Lord Krishna, who is competent to save his devotees. Such a chaste devotee also never asks the Lord for help, but the Lord, out of his own accord, is always anxious to render it. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Itinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashyatadistarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Acharya Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to Srimad Bhagavatam class. I hope you all had a wonderful Radhastami yesterday. So today I will be trying to speak on these 2 verses, verse number 16 and 17. So far what has happened is, we saw how Ashwatthama released the Brahmastra to kill Parikshit, who is in the womb of Uttara. And then, we saw how the Lord, Arjuna gets bewildered. The Lord reveals why he's seeing such an effulgence in general, right? And then eventually Arjuna gets, he himself gets protected, and then now the Brahmastra is coming, and the Supreme Lord is protecting again, right? So after this whole incident happens, these three verses essentially, right? These three verses, verse number 15, 16, and 17, are highlighting the perfection aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it's called the Lord's inconceivable powers of protection. So I think this is very, very much relevant for us all here, because we are in this, bodily condition where we are always in danger. We are always 24/7 in danger. And how the Supreme Lord is always protecting us, but we do not see that, that how the Lord is protecting us. In verse number 16 and 17, the two things that kind of struck me were the first, in 16, the wonderful nature of Krishna, and this in 17 again, it's the protection of Krishna. So I'll try to put a few words. I have a lot going on in my mind that I want to express from my heart, but I'll see how successful I'll be able to put it in words. So it's in this verse, like if you focus on the translation for verse number 16, it's nicely it's how I'll read the translation. O Brahmanas, do not think this to be especially wonderful in the activities of the mysterious, infallible Supreme Lord. Always we think, Krishna is so wonderful. Then why is this verse saying, don't think that this is wonderful? Srila Prabhupada also dedicates one whole chapter in the Krishna book called Wonderful Krishna, where, the glories of Krishna and the beauty of Krishna is described. Now, why is this verse saying, it's not at all wonderful? Krishna definitely did something really great. He protected, Brahmastra is a weapon. We saw in the last verse of how Brahmastra is a weapon that cannot be counteracted in this material world. Once released, a Brahmastra is deemed to be successful in its mission. Then how is that the Supreme Lord was able to protect Parikshit? So it is definitely wonderful for us, right? Now, why is Sutta Goswami saying this is not wonderful? And later on, actually, even in the Krishna book, when Krishna lifts the Govardhan hill, and there are a few pastimes which seem very wonderful, there is another comment there too that says, this is not wonderful. So how do we understand this aspect, right? So the key thing is, when do we feel that something is wonderful for us, right? We feel, something, if something very unexpected happens, like, we call it a surprise, right? A surprise gift or a surprise incident happens. Immediately we are stuck with awe and wonder. And that's why we feel wonderful about it. So when you look at it from the pastime and our own experience, meaning how we perceive that pastime, it may look definitely be wonderful for us, right? How Krishna protected them from the Brahmastra, Parikshit from Brahmastra. But when you look at it from Krishna's perspective, that is his nature incompletely. Everything about Krishna is wonderful for us. Don't think that just this one pastime is wonderful or this one aspect. Krishna is completely wonderful. That is the beauty about Krishna. When we study in detail, I mean, first thing, right? Whenever we try to study about Krishna or understand Krishna, we often come across verses. We often come across, like from our acharyas, that Krishna is inconceivable. We cannot understand Krishna at all. He's inconceivable. But at the same time, then if one may ask, if Krishna is inconceivable, how can, what is the point in trying to understand Krishna? Why do we have to study Srimad Bhagavatam? Why do we have to read the pastimes of the Lord? Why do we have to hear the pastimes of the Lord? It is to, we have to do this so that we understand that Krishna is inconceivable. And that is inconceivable too for us, because sometimes, while the Acharya says Krishna is inconceivable, and we try to read the pastimes, and with the intention that to understand he's inconceivable, but we think we understood Krishna also. So this is, I'm trying to put it in the aspect of the verse, where in Bhagavad Gita, where it's described about the soul, right? When the nature of the soul is described, it says that, the soul, it cannot be bewildered and whatnot. So essentially, what I'm trying to say is, it is a paradox here. Krishna is inconceivable, but at the same time, if you do not try to understand Krishna, you will never understand that Krishna is inconceivable. That is the beauty about Krishna. So what I'm trying to point out here is, while this action of Krishna is wonderful, we are only feeling it wonderful because because of our limited understanding. But every action of Krishna, every aspect of Krishna is wonderful, and that doesn't make him wonderful. I hope I'm able to convey that message. So that's the beauty of Krishna. I was actually, trying to relish some experience through Janmashtami, that I was trying, one aspect of Krishna that I was trying to understand and relish, right? So, at least, especially speaking about myself, I'm not qualified at all in any way, but for some inconceivable mercy of the senior Vaishnavas and devotees, somehow I had the opportunity to, dress Radha Shyam Sundar, under the guidance of Premananda Mataji. So Premananda Mataji was very, very insistent on trying to understand, because when we are dressing the deities of the Lord, it is very important for us to not put our own conceptions on the deity form of the Lord. So she, I think for all of the second initiative devotees, she spent a big deal of amount of time, a lot of time trying to help us understand that simple concept. And then she was asking us, try to train yourself, read something, or listen, look at videos and whatnot, and educate yourself in that, right? So in that, in that research, I came across one nice video, from the deity worship ministry, how they are explaining how to dress Krishna. Something really, really stuck for me, and it's a very simple concept. At least for me, I'm more a science person, less an art person. So that video was mostly focused on the principles of art. The Prabhuji who was trying to give training, forget about Krishna consciousness. He was just trying to give us the basic principles of art. And then in the principles of art, what he said is there are two concepts. There is one concept which is called beautiful and ugly, meaning if you do certain things in a certain way, it looks beautiful. If you break those principles, like for example, there is colors. There are some colors which are complementary to each other, and some colors which are not complementary to each other. When you do not pick the right combination, what happens is it either turns out beautiful or ugly. But that there is another concept called, I forgot the right word for it. If you do certain things, while you can make something very beautiful by picking the right colors, the right choices and whatnot, there is some other concept where you can do certain things and you can make things dazzling. It kind of enhances, it's not just beauty, enhances the whole feel of it. And that's another concept of art, right? And then, he was sharing how Krishna is very, very unique. Even if you look at it from art, I mean, this is mundane subject of art, but how Krishna's form is very unique, even from art perspective, right? A lot of the times, right, if you look at any form of the Lord, in form of Vishnu Tattva, or any deities of the Lord, right, they are always standing straight. So essentially, when you want to decorate any deity form of the Lord that is standing straight, you have to be symmetrical. Meaning, if you put something on the left, they should be on the right side too. When you break that symmetry, the whole feature changes. The whole aspect of the feature changes. But Krishna, he's so wonderful that when he comes in the deity form of the Lord, for us, even his deity form is very special compared to all other incarnations on all other deity forms of incarnations. He's Tribhanga. He stands in a threefold bending form, which completely breaks the principles of symmetry, and it makes him dazzling and extremely special and beautiful. That's why when you see the deity form of Krishna, you see all sorts of asymmetrical things that are happening in the deity form of the Lord. You see how his flute is on one side, how he bends on one side, how he puts his hip on one side, how his leg is folding on one side. For example, right, if you look at the straight form of the deity form of the Lord and you put a chadar, it has to be symmetric on both sides. For example, if you see Lord Balaji, he has a garland which is going on both the right side and left side. You cannot make it short on one side, long on one side. But when you decorate Krishna, you can break all those principles and Krishna still remains dazzling. How wonderful is that? Just one aspect, which is the way he manifests as a deity in this material world, for us to worship him, is splendorous. And you will notice, right, any form of Krishna, you always say Tribhanga form. Very rarely you see like a straight form of the Supreme Lord. And that is one aspect. And then see, we read about so much in the Krishna pastimes of the Lord, where how Krishna is wonderfully decorated with different kinds of ornaments, different kinds of things and whatnot, right? And that just one Tribhanga form can be decorated so, because, we will never have the qualification, for us to decorate Krishna in his true form, we have to be in Goloka Vrindavan to decorate him in the way he's decorated. But because he's giving his Tribhanga form to us in this material world, you see how beautifully all temples decorate, right? You put flowers, flower dresses, you put fruits on him, you put peacock feather on him, you put so many different varieties of things. And that opportunity is given because he's given this form of Tribhanga to us. That means we are experiencing the highest of all services where we can decorate Krishna in this wonderful form. And that is one wonder nature of Krishna. Just one aspect of how he stands is wonderstruck to us. Now, what about everything that he does? We have unlimited pastimes. We have unlimited, ways in which Krishna executes his pastimes. How wonderful each one of these are. So I'm really appreciative of Premanand Maji, how she was very, very insistent on understanding that aspect of how Krishna is special and how intentional we should. But that brought about this nice realization for me. I just wanted to share that one. And then as we go, right, in the next verse, Srila Prabhupada is very nicely stating in his purport, right? What the translation is, thus saved by the radiation of Brahmastra, Kunti, this is the important word, the chaste devotee of the Lord and her 5 sons, and Draupadi addressed Lord Krishna as he started for home. And Srila Prabhupada highlights the Sanskrit word of chaste, which is sati. Srila Prabhupada says, Kunti is described herein as sati or chaste due to her unalloyed devotion to Lord Sri Krishna. She is chaste. I think a mundane way to kind of correlate this in this material world is, we often come across this word of being a chaste wife or a chaste husband. The moment you become impure in that relationship, or you establish a relationship with somebody else, immediately it becomes unchaste. So what Srila Prabhupada is saying is, he's highlighting, and actually Sutta Goswami is also saying is Kunti has been chaste in her relationship with Krishna. And then as he goes further down, Srila Prabhupada says, a chaste devotee of the Lord does not look to others, namely any other living entity or any demigod, for the deliverance even from danger. I thought it was very important, because when Srila Prabhupada says even from danger, because often we look at shelter, shelter in different sources, not just in danger also, right? Even for basic things, each one of us is looking for happiness at every moment. For happiness, we look at different sources. For happiness, we look at, we want to please other living entities. We want to please the demigods, or any higher powers than us, so that we have a happy life or a comfortable life. And danger also, right? Danger is the extreme side of it, meaning, our life is in danger, our health is in danger, our existence is in danger. In that situation also, we take immediate shelter of other things. So how do we understand this one? Right? I remember, several years ago, I was visiting a friend of mine in Detroit. They have two wonderful kids. The young, at that time, this was 10 years ago, the young, their daughter was 4 years old or 5 years old. Their son was like 8 or 9 years old. And I think in the school, what they said is it is important for everyone to have a fire drill at home, because when there is fire, what do you do, right? So the family decided to do a fire drill at home with the children. And then the mother asked, right? She asked, if there is fire in our house, what will you do? The old boy said, yes, I will find the right exit and leave out of that door, right? Find a window, break a window if the door is blocked, if you're in the basement, find how you can get out of the well and stuff like that, right? However, the young little girl, who's growing up in Krishna consciousness, she said, first thing I'll do is go into the deity room and start praying to Krishna. So the mother was saying, how do we explain this? The son is right, the daughter is right. How do we, how do we understand this? Because, whatever the son said was practical, and whatever the daughter said was true. Krishna is our shelter. So, I was thinking about it, I mean, honestly, I should have posed a question to someone senior, but at least the way I convinced myself with this is, Krishna, he gives this in Bhagavad Gita. He talks about action and inaction. He says inaction is not an option, because end of the day, we have to do something, anything to live in life, live in the world. But at the same time, action is all, is not truly everything, right? Because there are 5 things for an endeavor to be successful. And Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita, there are 5 things. So material nature should cooperate. We should have the desire, and then the Supreme Lord should sanction it and whatnot. So I told myself, yes, the important thing is, yes, we should put our effort to come out of this, let us say this fire drill. But at the same time, we should understand, if it is only the will of Krishna that we will be saved, it's not just my endeavor. We need to remember that every moment. And at the same time, inaction is also not right. That's why we will see, we see in this whole pastime how Arjuna, he tried himself and he was bewildered, and he took shelter of Krishna, and Krishna gave him the protection, right? So I thought I will highlight that one. But end of the day, I think the point that I really want to highlight is how Srila Prabhupada is saying is we should be very chaste in our devotion to Krishna. And how he ends the last, towards the end of the purport was really, really touching to me. He says, this transcendental nature of the Lord, he reciprocates with the dependence of the devotee. And that's in Bhagavad Gita, right? How much we depend on Krishna, that much he will reciprocate with us. One should not, therefore, look for help in imperfect living beings and demigods. We may still approach our boss, asking for a raise, or we may, we may act chaste in front of our boss, right? Because we need to keep our job. But at the same time, I think a very nice pastime in Chaitanya Charitamrita, right? When Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami want to leave their positions in performing devotional service, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu writes a letter. He writes a encoded letter because, this is, it's very wonderful how Chaitanya Charitamrita works. In those days, it was a Mughal empire, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is residing in Prataparudra's empire. And, it's very likely that, letters would be intercepted and, whatever happening, because, Rupa Goswami held a big post in the Mughal empire, right? So he says, when a paramour has a relationship outside of her, outside of her relationship with her husband, she acts very chaste. So the way we should deal in this material world is, yes, I'm very chaste to my boss, I'm very chaste to my company, I'm very chaste to every relationship that I have. Act in that way, but in the heart of heart, have a strong love towards Krishna and a strong dependence on Krishna. And then Srila Prabhupada concludes with that statement. He said, one should look for help, all help from Krishna, who is competent to save his devotees. That's important here. He is competent to save his devotees. Such a chaste devotee also never asks the Lord for help. But the Lord, out of his own accord, is always anxious to render it. So something I was reading in Srimad Bhagavatam, I was inspired, to start. I'm hoping I can continue now after I came across, be a sage by a page, right? So as I started reading Srimad Bhagavatam, there was one nice example that really, really stuck me, right? Because that example that Srila Prabhupada gives, and Srila Prabhupada's examples are, amazing, it touches our heart. He gives is how, I want to correlate that one to where this says, the Lord is competent to save his devotees. Sometimes we may think, does the Lord know all the difficulties that I have, right? So the example that Srila Prabhupada gave is, he gives the example of an architect of a building. Say if you're planning to build a building, a house, you go to an architect, and the architect gives you the whole plan, right? He gives you where the pillars have to go. He gives you, how all the trusses should be placed and everything, right? And Srila Prabhupada says, as the building is built, the architect may never visit the construction site at all. You may have an architect who's living, like hundreds of thousands of miles away. He never came to the site, but he is 100% aware of where everything is and what everything is happening at every stage. Meaning he knows, even though he never came to the site, he knows where every pillar is. He knows where every wall is, every room is, and everything in there. Say, for example, sometimes you may come across, I remember watching movies in the past, right? When there's a big fire in a skyscraper, right? Sometimes, they reach out to the architect who lives, on the other side of the world, but who was the architect for the building. And as soon as the architect opens the plan, he knows exactly how the whole building is, but he may now have never visited the building. He may have never seen the building at all, but he knows the exit route, everything, because he's the one who built everything. I thought that example was great, right? Often we rely on other things in this world and whatnot, but Krishna is the architect for this material world. He knows everything that's happening, even though we may feel that he's not around. He's actually in our heart, but I thought the example was a fantastic way to describe it. Okay. All right. This is something I wanted to put, share something from my heart. Definitely, I'm not at the level of what I spoke. With your prayers and blessings, I hope and inspire myself to follow in all your footsteps to reach that stage at someday. Thank you very much. Any questions, comments, discussion? Okay, then we'll end it here for today. Grandaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
One point, if I can say, sorry.
Yeah,
no, I mean the Krishna's form, the Tribhanga form that you explained. I mean, it's so beautiful that he appeared in that form for us to, I mean, see and decorate. I mean, I was just looking at, I mean, the picture of Radha Madhav. I mean, how it's not a symmetrical. I mean, compared to example, if you give Balaji example, right? I mean, it's like beautiful deity, but still the Krishna's form is like, I mean, it's unique, right? I mean, the way it doesn't need to be symmetrical, but he looks beautiful, whatever, I mean, devotee dresses, but yeah.
Yes.
So just thank you, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
That explanation.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I just want to add something. You know, the things that you mentioned about dependence on Krishna, right, in all situations. I was listening to after Bhaktichar Swami Maharaj left. There were all various sessions about experiences with him, and in particular, there was one in Florida during his last days, and one of the devotees was saying that he did not want to go on the ventilator, but when the GBC said that no, you should, because that's the cure, that's the treatment. So it seems, what he said was, Maribe rakhibe jo ichha tomar. And that's, that was the mood with which he kind of went. I mean, that was so inspiring for me. It's like, depending on Krishna with your life, basically. I mean, Maribe rakhibe, yes. Whatever, jai ichha tomar.
Yes, Mother. Yes,
thank you.
My hairs were standing on end when you quoted that. Yes, it's amazing how.
Yeah, I mean, me too.
We can learn from direct examples right in front of us, right? And we never recognize that greatness.
Yeah, and that's kind of etched in my head. I mean, it's like, wow.
Yes, Mother. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sorry.
No problem.
I'm sorry, Prabhu. I think I was sick.
Maybe Vrindavan Prabhu is next to you. His phone may be creating a echo.
Okay, maybe Krishna doesn't want me to speak. Sorry.
No, you can try, Mataji. Are you dialed in from your computer also, or no? I think.
Go ahead, Mataji. We are able to hear.
Okay, you should be able to hear me now, I think.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was appreciating your class in totality, Prabhu. It's really nice how you connect to the practicality aspect, the mother and two children example. That was really nice, I mean, how the practicality versus reality. So that was really nice. And the other point I really liked is about the inconceivable nature of the Lord. At times it feels like, anyway, I cannot understand. So that's okay. When we are hearing these very super elevated sections, it kind of shuts off the brain and say, anyway, I don't understand. Yeah, Krishna is inconceivable. So, it's kind of goes in that mood. But I really appreciated the way you brought it up, Prabhu. How do we understand that? And, I think when we approach in that way, even though it's inconceivable, it gives us such a deeper connection and understanding of Krishna when we put our efforts and then realize that he is inconceivable. So I was really appreciating that. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I was actually reading one article, about this wonderful nature of Krishna in BTG, in Back to Godhead. And the devotee was very nicely explaining. I can probably quote the actual line. what he says is the most wonderful aspect of Krishna of all, even with compared with his other forms, is his nature to love us all. That is the most wonderful nature, how he loves us, each and every, in his form as Krishna, he loves all living entities, each and every one of us. I thought it was very nice. And then going back to chastity, the article talks about how the gopis as an example, right? Even the queens of Dwarka are not at that. I wouldn't say not at that level. I'm looking for the right word. What he says is the cowherd. Okay, even the queens in Dwarka. Okay, usually in a conjugal relationship, men and women want something from each other. Women usually want security, and even Krishna's queens in Dwarka, had that security from Krishna. But the gopis had nothing. They never asked for anything. They went to the forest in the middle of the night at the risk of losing all their families and reputations. And Krishna did not provide them any guarantee or indemnity. Therefore, they are considered the highest of devotees. Right? Earlier we were talking about the protection of Krishna, and Krishna is the knower and he will protect us. But here, in this contrast of even looking for security, the gopis exhibit the highest of all, which is not even, they don't want anything from Krishna, 100% anything, even security for themselves. And the article ends with saying, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recites the words, right? Aslishya padharatam pinastama madarsanam amrahatam karotva yata tata govidata lumpato pranatstanastvai. No matter even if you embrace me, or if you reject me completely, I am still your dedicated servant, life after life after life. And it actually said that verse, the true nature of this, we may think we understood it, the true nature of this verse is only known to 3 people. Do you know who those 3 people are? Anybody wants to answer? The 3 people are Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srimati Radharani, and Madhavendra Puri. Only they know the true meaning of that verse. Okay, sorry, I went over time. Anybody has any comments, or otherwise we can end it here? Yeah. Okay, Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I hope you all have a very Krishna conscious day.